Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. We're just past Thanksgiving and I made lots of desserts, sugar-free of course, and I'm going to share with you this chocolate cream pie. No sugar added, diabetic friendly. And it's a staple recipe around here because it's so quick and easy, but boy, it's yummy. Here are the ingredients. Please pause to write them down. And we love it when you give us a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, you'll get notice every time we post a new video. Now let's get cooking. I have here my cast iron enameled Dutch oven, and I'm adding my sweetener. I'm using Splenda. You can use monk fruit with this, and the cocoa, and you can see the amounts in the ingredients I posted at the beginning. Now, I don't have the heat on. I'm adding all of my ingredients before I turn the heat on. That's just a sprinkle of salt. And we're going to mix this up, mix the dry ingredients up really well. And I'm going to do some compulsive wiping. I'm sorry, I just do. So let's mix this up, and I'm adding the cornstarch. Someone in the group mentioned gluten-free. Now, I'm using a regular crust, but you can make a crust for this out of nuts. And in another video, I'll show you how to do that. So we're just going to mix this all together really well before we add the milk. And still no heat, even after I add the eggs and milk. So this is 3 cups of milk, and you add it a little slowly. And full disclosure here, you have to stir this a lot to get it all mixed together. And you do want to have the powder all mixed in, the dry ingredients all mixed in well before you ever turn your heat on. So I'll stir a little more than you'll see and stir it pretty vigorously to get it all mixed together. And I'm beating 4 egg yolks. And this is a little different than many recipes you've seen. I'm adding the eggs before we add any heat. And we want to mix those in really well. And this is one of the reasons this is such an easy recipe. You don't have to fiddle around with tempering the eggs. You just put them in while everything's cold. And then we turn our heat on medium-high, and you stir, and you stir, and you stir. I'm not going to show you the whole time, but you do have to stir the whole time, and it's probably going to take about 5 minutes before we start seeing this turn into pie. So, you could stop for 30 seconds, but then you need to come back and stir some more. And that's one reason I'm using a heavy bottom pan, because otherwise, with the length of time we cook this, it will stick. See, we're starting to get bubbles. Still not pie though. We just keep stirring. And if you don't have a cast iron enameled Dutch oven, you might want to think about getting one. You can use it for everything. And it's especially good for things that would normally stick if you're not careful. Okay, it's starting to thicken up. You can see it, you can feel it with your whisk. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to let it boil on this medium high heat for a full minute, and you're going to stir it the whole time, and be sure to stir it down from the sides, because that will, if you leave it on the sides, it'll thicken on the sides and you'll never get it off. You'll just have to scrub and scrub and scrub. But see how this thickens up, and when it happens pretty quickly, and you're going to get this creamy texture that you don't get from a box pudding. I don't know if you buy box puddings, and they're okay, but there's no reason to when you can make a real pie this easily. So let me show you the texture. You see how creamy that is, and smooth, and just like pure milk chocolate. So we're coming to the last step. I'm going to put about a tablespoonful of butter in here, and I've still got my heat on, but just as soon as that butter melts, I'm going to turn the heat off. And we just want to stir that in really well. You don't want to let it puddle at all. Mix it in well. Then turn the heat off, add your vanilla, and stir that in well. Now, I'm going to add this. I'm going to put this into a pre-baked pie shell. And I have another video to show you how to prepare a pre-baked pie shell. But if you want to, you can just put this into a graham cracker crust, which is easy to make. You can use sugar-free graham crackers. You can make a sugar-free cookie crust, which I have in another video, in my peanut butter pie video. But this is ready to go. See that? And, you know, I'm going to lick the bowl on this. My kids always got to do it, but they grew up and they went away, and now I get to lick the bowl. So let's get our pie shell, and I'll be right back. And I pre-baked this about an hour ago and set it to cool. I'm going to add this hot pie filling. And by the way, you could put this in parfait dishes and top it with whipped cream and have a great pudding or parfait because it's fully cooked. All you've got to do now is chill it. So I'm going to put all this yummy goodness in here and spread it out just a little bit. I don't want to miss a bit. Now I'm going to refrigerate this for at least an hour because we're going to top this with a creamy whipped cream topping, and I want this to be fully cool before I do that. Now, being dairy, it will form a little skim on the top. That's okay. We're going to put the topping on it. And see, it's still a little jiggly, although it is firming up. And after an hour, it will be firm. So now for the topping, which is basically just going to be whipped cream. I have a cup of heavy whipping cream there. And there is a trick to making whipped cream that will stay together and not separate with Splenda. And the trick is that you add a little cornstarch to your Splenda. Splenda has different properties than sugar, so you have to make adjustments sometimes. So I chilled my bowl before I started, and we're just going to beat this until it will make soft peaks. Not firm peaks, just soft. You don't want to overbeat. And I'm going to add the Splenda and cornstarch mixture kind of slowly and beat it in. And once you add that mixture, you'll see the cream firm up really quickly, and it gives you a nice dense texture that stays together on your pie. And I'm going to ask y'all to forgive my raspy throat. The weather's changing. It's dry, and I have a dry throat. So we're just going to stir this, whip this, and I'll caution you again, you don't want to overbeat it. If you go too far, you'll have butter. But you see how that is firm and it stays right there on the whip. So see, it'll make peaks, and I love this texture. So now let's dress our pie. We don't want naked chocolate there. We want some cream. So when you're dressing a pie, icing it, putting your topping on, always go around and I always go around and seal it to the crust because this is going to be refrigerated overnight. We don't want any weeping. And you just go around the outside and see how nicely that stands up. It's very firm, and with that cornstarch trick, it's going to stay firm over. Then we'll fill in the middle, and I like to kind of pile it high in the middle. And you know, get artistic if you want to, make it in any kind of design you like. I kind of like this random design. But this is just, oh, I don't know. It's just beautiful. And having made it many times over the years, I can tell you it tastes as good as it looks. And of course, this is not totally carb-free. This has a crust. There's a little bit of cornstarch in it, but it's fairly low carb, no sugar added. And this is something most diabetics can enjoy in moderation. And as a garnish now, I have a piece of sugar-free chocolate. This particular piece is an Atkins bar. You can use any sugar-free chocolate you like. Hershey's makes a good one. And I'm grating it up. I'm going to use it as a garnish. And it adds a little to the flavor. Just sprinkle it on, or you can chunk it up. You don't have to grate it, but this looks pretty with it grated, and I like to do it this way. So just sprinkle it around, and this is going to make your table so pretty. When I get all this topping on, I'm going to refrigerate it overnight, and we'll have it tomorrow for Thanksgiving. And this whipped cream, this whipped topping, will not separate. It will not get hard. It will stay nice and firm and keep its texture in the refrigerator. And I'll prove that to you. It's Thanksgiving, and I've cut a slice out of this pie, and I didn't do too neat a job. But I've recruited two pretty young women here to help. This is Keaton, one of my recently acquired granddaughters, when my son married her lovely mother. And this is Athena, my great-granddaughter. And yep, we have Athena's approval and Keaton's too. Yep, she likes it, and that's just perfect. That's why you cook. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I hope you try this pie. I hope you like it as much as we do. And I hope you join us again tomorrow.